ci agriculture bi niñ ko baaxoo di def ànd ci Ibou Ndoye ak Adjouza bu New York ak diaspora bi yëpp tey nag suñu invité américaine la di jàngale art professeur art donc tey suñu émission bi en anglais lañ koy def puisque aussi comme ci diaspora la ñu nekk rajo bi basé wu aux États-Unis donc il faut ñu dugal ci suñu diaspora noire bi tey nag ñu am Liz lañ koy wax émission bi en anglais lañ koy def mais bu ñëwee ba ci fin ba dinañ résumé lan lañ wax ci olof ñu doog a tëj émission bi. Ibu, I was saying that today we have a guest who is from this country, America, United States, and she's a black lady, a professor of art. So the program gonna be broadcasted in English, and by the end of the program, so we're gonna say a few words in Wolof to resume.
Hello.
To resume what we've been talking about. So Ibu, I'm gonna let you introduce our guest. Hi.
Hi, Stan. xam naa dañuy nuyu sunu mbokk déglukat yi wolof kon ni koy defee dimanche bu nekk tey ki nga xam ne moom lañ am ci suñu émission bi mu nekk artiste nekk aussi tamit di jàngale art ci école yi jàngale nga art durant plus de 30 ans temps yi di retraité aussi tamit moo ngi tudd Liz Cohen dëkk na aussi ci dëkk yu bëri ci àdduna bi dëkk na fu mel ni Australie jàngale na fa lu yàgg Australie tamit ba mu fa jógee gis na ay pays européens yu bëri visite tamit Afrique fu mel ni Nigéria dem na fu nekk Ghana fu mel ni Ghana fii lu nekk fii ci États-Unis mu nekk Hoboken bi nga xam ne fa la dëkk moo nekk président benn association bi nga xam ne moom tudd Hope Art nag nekk benn courant bi nga xam ne dafa dajale ay artistes peintres tamit nekk nga xam ne moom moo créé première galerie coopérative galerie pour les artistes fii ci Hoboken tey moom la am fii ci suñu émission bi. Hi Liz, how are you?
I'm well, thank you. How are you, Ibu?
Great. So you are our guest on Radio Pikine Diaspora, which is International Diaspora Radio based right here in New York. So before starting, I just would like to give you the floor to introduce yourself, please.
Yes, I'm an artist, teacher, and cooperative gallery member here in Hoboken, New Jersey. I've lived here for many years, and I have been a teacher for 42 years. And I am the president of Hobart Cooperative Gallery, which is a group of artists from the New York metropolitan area. We are artist-run. We are a nonprofit organization. And our mission is to help artists create, exhibit, market, promote, and sell their work, and also to help artists connect with the larger community of Hoboken and New York and give back to the people who come to look at our art. So we are a community-minded, community-based organization. And in my artwork, should I talk about that now, or?
So I would prefer we talk about a little bit the person Liz and her like commitment to the community and like your teaching experience in America and in Australia before we came back to that place.
Okay, I didn't catch all of that, but I think you want me to talk briefly about my artwork.
Yeah, it's going to be like a general debate, so we'll touch that later. So will you please give us a little bit about like your teaching experience, because you've been teaching for 42 years, and not only you taught in America, but you also taught in Australia.
Yes. I've taught many things over the years, and I've taught people from kindergarten, which is 5-year-old children, all the way up to adults and the elderly. I did teach in Australia for 7 years. I got my teaching degree in California, and from there I went directly to Australia. The last position that I held in Australia, I was privileged to be working with Aboriginal girls and then Aboriginal other able children in a town called Nhulunbuy, which is a tiny Aboriginal mission in the top end of Australia. Then I came back here, and I've been teaching primarily elementary school arts, so children grades 5 through 6, for children ages 5 through 12, grades K through 6. And I've also been lucky enough to be running workshops with you, Ibu. So the workshops have been for children of all ages again, and also for other abled people, including blind, visually impaired, and hearing impaired students, and also for adults.
So that's a very good thing, because as you said, we did a lot of workshops in schools and in other places.
Yes.
But I also would like to come to another point. You mentioned you're the president of Hope Art, which is like a cooperative art gallery, and the first one in Hoboken. Can you please tell us how that organization was born?
I belong to a cooperative gallery in New York City called Ceres, which is a women's feminist cooperative in New York. And I like their model of doing things. They have a gallery that is completely artist-run. And I like that concept very much. And living in Hoboken, I had been part of the art scene here in Hoboken, but I was watching that art scene kind of disintegrate and die because rents were increasing in Hoboken. Ironically, the artists had come in, renovated properties around Hoboken, caused gentrification, and were themselves being pushed out because the rents were rising. And I was concerned that we were losing all these creative people from our community. So I went to the head of cultural affairs in Hoboken and said, I think I'd like to start a cooperative gallery. And because I'd had the experience at Ceres in New York, she said, go ahead and do it. And at that point, she gave me the directory of all the artists in Hudson County, which is where Hoboken is located. And I just started calling people. And from those phone calls, we generated our first meeting, which I think probably attracted about 15 people. And that was the beginning of Hobart. And from there, we grew into, our first year, we had 54 members. And now we're lucky enough to have a gallery. It took us several years to acquire gallery space, but it's beautiful space, and it's been worth waiting for.
But before we had the gallery, it was just like a neurotic organization, because I remember we've been to a lot of other towns and we have shows over there.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
So in the beginning, before we had an actual gallery, we would show wherever we could, basically. So sometimes we would show within Hoboken, but more frequently we would show elsewhere, including Chelsea and New York, places, more rural places like Watchung, New Jersey. We showed in Newark several times. We showed in Patterson. So wherever we could find space, including, we tried to run pop-up galleries on the main street in Hoboken, Washington Street, and we did succeed to do that once, and it was quite successful, but we never were able to repeat that experience.
Yeah, that was a wonderful experience, and that was called Washington, Windows in Washington.
Yes.
Okay, can you please tell us a little bit about the concept of Windows in Washington, please?
Well, I and another member had read an article about Manhattan, and in New York City, shopkeepers, if their space is empty and they're looking to rent it, they're more than willing to allow artists to come in and display their artwork, because it really does attract potential leasers to their space. So many realtors and building owners in New York are amenable to have artists come in and run what are called temporary or pop-up galleries. So we thought we'd like to try and do that on Washington Street. And we started doing it at a time when Hoboken was going through an economic depression, and we thought that landlords would be very willing to do this in order to attract people to rent their space. And we were lucky enough to find one woman who was the owner and realtor, the real estate agent for the space that we got. And she took us in, and we did such a brilliant show that she rented our space on her opening night. So that was kind of a short-lived but very exciting experience. And as I said earlier, unfortunately it didn't catch on. We have yet to find other building owners who are willing to try this concept.
And it seems like if you're a cooperative art gallery based in Hoboken, does it mean that you only have members from Hoboken, or do you have members from all the states?
We do, and our main focus is the New York metropolitan area, but we have people from all over New Jersey, we have people from Manhattan, and we even have a member from Cincinnati, Ohio. So our membership is, the criteria is wide open, and we will accept people from anywhere.
What are the advantages or disadvantages of having a cooperative art gallery or being a member of a cooperative art gallery?
Well, the advantages are huge because we take people of all different skill levels and experience and enable them, should they wish to follow our advice, we can enable them to become professional artists and learn how to market and sell their work. And also we have critiques where artists gather to talk about their work. So the potential to grow and expand and experiment in your own work is high. And you're in a community of like-minded people, so there's constantly new ideas being bandied about and talked about. So it's a way for artists to grow and thrive in a very safe and non-judgmental community. The disadvantages are you are expected to work. So you have responsibilities within the gallery setting that we expect people to fulfill. For example, you do have to sit at least 12 times a year. You do have to help hang shows that are group member shows. So you do have to make a commitment to maintaining the gallery as a professional space. We also need people, volunteers. Nothing is paid at our gallery. We do also need people to help us run committees and events and fundraisers. And many artists probably would prefer not having to devote their creative time to doing that kind of nitty-gritty, day-to-day organizational work. So that would be the main drawback for artists. And financially, I will admit, financially it's a struggle for the whole group because, of course, we do have overhead that has to be covered. And so from month to month, there's the anxiety about whether or not we can pay our bills.
Yeah. It's just like that with all organizations, mostly art organizations, because running a gallery is good, but it doesn't mean that the gallery is going to sell every day or every night you have an opening.
Right. And even galleries in the hot spot in New York at the moment, Chelsea, you don't always get visitors to your gallery. It's not like people are beating a path to your door to look at your work. So you do have to work to get people out and to promote and do the PR for your work. And not every artist is willing to do that kind of work.
Yeah, because I usually say you got several processes in art: creating your work and marketing your work, like taking it out, which is the problem of a lot of artists. And this organization we have is working a lot on that. And not only that, sometimes we give artists a chance to curate shows.
Yeah.
Which is also a great thing. Because and let's talk about the members. Do you only have like professional artists, or do you also have artists that are not like really professional beginners?
Yes, we have people at all different skill and entry levels. So we have some artists who've never shown their work at all before, some artists who absolutely consider themselves completely amateur and just dabbling in the arts. And we have some people who are completely professional, who've made a living their entire lives selling their work, and they're much more experienced. And I personally have found that the mix is helpful to everyone. The more experienced artists can mentor the newer, less professional people. The less professional, newer artists are constantly feeding the more experienced artists new ideas and thoughts and techniques that they might never have thought of using before. So the fact that we're open to all skill level and experience level artists, I think, is a win-win situation for everyone. And we have workshops for people who don't, for example, know how to write a resume. We will help them learn how to do that. Or people who don't know how to become a presence in social media. We will have people in to talk to the membership about how to use things like Twitter and Facebook. So it doesn't matter what your skill base is or whether or not you're professional.
And then, you invite like many other people to come to the galleries to do workshops, and you recently had somebody who came to teach artists how to use paint, acrylic paint.
Yeah.
To mix the mediums and all those other things.
Yeah. He's come twice, Roy Kinzer. He's been an excellent workshop leader, and I've been using acrylic paints for 30 or more years, and every time this gentleman comes, I learn something new. So it's a vibrant, educational, creative community.
This is a very interesting thing. We would like to remind our listeners that our guest today is Liz Cohen, who is an artist and the president of Hub Arts. So she's our guest. Hi, brothers, and do you have something to add to this conversation? Okay, Liz, another question I would like to ask. I know you travel widely, and because of your teaching experience, because of your teaching job, you've been to Africa several times, I think, Ghana, and Nigeria. Can you please tell us a little bit about your African experience, please?
Oh, it was wonderful, and you've probably heard people say this before, Ibu, but for me, going to Africa was like coming home. As soon as I landed in Accra and got off the airplane, it was like I completely relaxed and just was so happy to be there. And on my first trip, which was to Ghana alone, I traveled with other artists and art teachers, and it was just really a phenomenal experience because we started in Accra, which is a large city, and we visited galleries there and went to the market there, which was inspirational. And then we traveled to villages throughout Ghana in which they were doing different arts. So, for example, we went to, I'm blocking the name of the villages, we went to the beading village where they had a huge bead market. We learned how to make glass beads in the Ghana style and with the Ghana traditions. We went to a Kente weaving village and learned how to, or at least we got to experience doing Kente cloth weaving, and a pottery village where we actually made pots, and a carving village where we were invited to carve, and also an Adinkra stamping village. So, and then we got to study at Nkrumah University with the head of the fabric design department, and we did batiking and tie-dyeing techniques. So it was, for an artist, it was a dream experience.
Ibu, I wanted to ask some general questions to Liz. So we carefully listened to what she has been saying, explaining her art, and like the way she moved from New York City to Hoboken. I know it was not easy, because if you know New York City, it's a city of art, like in Chelsea, where she mentioned it. But I wanted to ask her personally, was it easy for her to move from like Manhattan or whatever to Hoboken as far as art is concerned? Because I know it's a big difference.
Interesting question.
Yeah. And then also, after you answer that question, so Ajuza gonna ask some general questions too.
Okay, sure, yeah.
So, I think what Jen was asking was, how was it to move from showing my work in New York to showing my work in Hoboken?
Yeah.
And I thought it would be different, but it really isn't different. So my passion for doing and showing my art in a small city like Hoboken is as strong as it was when I was showing in New York. And I feel that the audience for my work is the same in both places. And I'm not so much interested in the sophisticated art collector when I sell my work, although I would love it if somebody, had that kind of money when they purchased my work. But I just love making my art to show to everyone. So moving from Manhattan and the high-priced art world to Hoboken, where people may have less experience looking at the visual arts and less funds to pay for it, it really hasn't changed my thoughts or feelings or approach to showing my art at all. And I do still show in both Manhattan and Hoboken. And because I actually live in Hoboken, I have a larger commitment to the audience in this part of the world than I might have for the people in Manhattan.
Thank you for the answer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Ajuza, do you have another question, please, Ajuza?
Thank you, Ibu, and thank you very much, Liz, for coming on the program Pikine Diaspora Radio, and really appreciate it, and the overall experience or she had in the art over here in the U.S. and around the world, especially in Australia, and all the trip she did have in Africa. I would like to ask a couple of general questions to Liz. Liz, how are you doing?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear that clearly.
Yeah, Stan, that is unclear.
Okay, let me rephrase it. Do you hear me well now?
I hear you, Ibu, clearly, yes.
Okay, good. I was saying to make a resume of what I said previously, that we really appreciate yourself being here on the program Pikine Diaspora Radio, and really appreciate it, and the overall experience you have around the world, from Australia to Africa, the motherland, and here in New York City and Hoboken. And I was just saying that, how are you doing? And we just welcome you to Pikine Diaspora Radio. And my question is that what was your experience before you go to Africa? What spiritual connection do you have with Africa, and what had you been when you come back from Africa, like a person, like an artist? And the second question is that do you think that we have? I mean, we can talk about art in the post-colonial system in Africa, but in the traditional Africa, do you think we really have art? Thank you, Liz.
Okay. I'm not sure I had a spiritual connection to Africa before I went. I certainly had a huge admiration for the arts of Africa. I am also an art student. I was trained in art schools in my own educational career, and I had a deep love for African art. The spiritual connection for me happened once I went. As I said earlier, it felt like I was coming home. And I'm not sure I can put into words exactly why that happened. It was everything. It was the smells, it was the climate, it was the warmth of people that I met, it was the beauty of the things that I saw. And there were many moving experiences, like going to Elmira in Ghana, going to the Cape Coast, and seeing firsthand the history and destruction and horror of slavery. And so those are the things that I came home with, the sights, the sounds, the smells, the tragic and also the happy, wonderful things about Africa. And when I came home, it really did deeply affect my work. I was lucky enough to purchase some contemporary sculpture in Accra. There were ceramic pieces of figures of women, and I love them so much that I started creating figures in my own work that looked very similar to these particular sculptures. And at the time, I was making what I call dolls. They're soft sculptures that have very soft shapes, and I was using fabric that I'd collected all over the world. So fabric that I actually made in Ghana, I brought back with me and incorporated them into the dolls that I was making. And from that, I started creating an entire culture that the dolls live and exist in. So the African trips for me have been very, very influential in my own creative process, and I just feel so lucky to have gone, and I look forward to the time when I can go back. The second half of your question, if I'm understanding correctly, was, do I think that there can be art?
I was saying that in Africa we have, in fact, two Africa. We have the traditional Africa and we have the post-colonial Africa, which is found in the cities. Maybe you can find some contemporary arts in the cities, but the question is that in traditional Africa, do you really think that the African they have the notion of art?
I think the notion of art, or the idea of art, is culture-bound. However, arts can leap the boundaries of culture. So I think the contemporary African art that I've seen here in New York City and also in Africa is vibrant and unique and has a life. It may be influenced by the areas that it comes from, so that the people from a specific part of Africa may move to another country and bring the culture and traditions of their own country to the new country, and create something brand new. So I think that there is always this very rich combination of the new and the traditional that can make for fabulous art. And I think of actually Ibu's work in particular that is so very Senegalese and yet contains a lot of American imagery from his experience here in the United States. I hope I answered that.
No, what I'm saying is that not really, but because what I'm saying is that to to be precise and to concise the question again, is that, like I say, we have in Africa I may say that the society may be split in two parts. This like the post-colonial system that we are part of somewhere, and the traditional system, we got nothing to do with the post-colonial system. So we can talk about art maybe in the cities in the post-colonial system, like where I'm from, even from somebody's from. But if you go in the deep of Africa, the traditional system, my question is that do they have art, or they name it differently?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. In fact, I think the traditional forms of art, and of course, this is my personal opinion, are the authentic forms of art. And that everything in Western culture or colonial culture is based on the traditional arts of traditional people all over the world. So, if you're asking me, is there a concept of art in traditional society or traditional culture? Absolutely, yes.
Yeah, well, do we have art, first of all, in Africa and traditional Africa is the question. Because you can do something, what you call art in the West, that's the vision of the West. And in Africa, the traditional, the priest or the voodoo, something like we'll call it differently. What he used maybe see by us in the West like art, but for him it may be called something else. And what I was saying, that the young generation, like artists in the cities, to be exact, from the post-colonial system, that's mean they're the product of a process of colonization, of alienation. Call this art, and they're in this art. But art itself, I'm wondering if it does exist in traditional system.
I'm sorry, Ibu, can you explain to me? I didn't catch all of that. I'm sorry.
Yeah, he's talking about like art in the post-colonial system and art like it is right now, because there's a huge difference, if I understand well. Because like I shared the same experience, because when I first came over here, what I was calling contemporary art myself was called traditional art, because I've been in some galleries where galleries told me your art is too African. I was in galleries where they told me my art is too Afrocentric, and I was in places where they told me my art is very is too traditional. I think it's just a matter of concept, and there is no conception without art. But sometimes people don't understand what like the African artists have and what they do, because African artists like have their own experiences, and those African or African American artists or American artists who have been to Africa, sometimes they witness that, and when they come, that influences their work a little bit. I can take you an example, like when you went to Africa, you got a chance to learn a lot of things, like bead making, tie-dye, and all those things you learned, you kind of applying it to your art,
Yeah, what I'm saying, Ibu, is that what we call art, I'm wondering even the art exists in traditional Africa. This is what I believe in. Because art is a notion coming from the West.
Can you get closer to the mic or to your phone?
Yes, I can't really hear.
We can't hear well.
Are you perceiving well now? Much more better?
Yes.
A little better, yes.
Okay, right. What I'm saying is that, like there's like a split in Africa, like between the post-colonial system, that's mean those coming from after the colonization until today, educated and formatted in a system of the West, can, like me and Ibu and somebody else, can talk about art. But if you go in the traditional system, which people who never went to the Western schools and got a different system of perceiving the world and education, we will not even say education, we're going to say initiation, because they're coming from initiation. They will not call it art. For example, the instrument they're going to use in the voodoo ceremony or Yoruba ceremony, the Westerners can call it, oh, this is a very nice bit of art. But in fact, for them, it's something else than art. So what I'm saying that the question is that, do you think this in the traditional Africa, the notion of art is really existent? Yes.
I see what he's saying. So you're talking about the fact that art in traditional culture is often utilitarian. It's not thought of as art it's not made for decorative purposes. It's that for children in areas where post-colonial art isn't taught, the concept of art, the post-colonial concept of art is not something that they would understand. I think that's what you're saying. And how do we bridge that gap?
Yes, somewhere, because even if we talk about New York City, for example, you can go around 27 in the Chelsea's, all the galleries.
Yes.
You never see really they're not interested in African arts. Instead, because art is very subjective matter. In order to make the price of a piece, it depends who owns the collection, how rich he is, and you got to make the value of that art. You know, and it's like got no real sense at my point of view. And this, so that, like Ibu said, people can say that, oh, your art is too Afrocentric, and why not? Because what they have over there is European-centric. Yeah, definitely.
I agree with you. I think that's true, but I think it's starting to change. I think, so for example, you know, there's a fabulous, wonderful show of Congo art at the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York, which finally, I think, shows the pieces as art and not as craft or as utilitarian objects, even though some of them were made to be that. But more and more, there are contemporary African artists who are being shown in Manhattan. And Ibo, maybe you could help me with the names of some of the people who have recently been shown. Wangechi Mutu. But of course, she went to Yale, so she doesn't really count. But there are people who are crossing, I don't know how else to put it, except crossing the line, who seem to have come from traditional backgrounds and who are using their traditional skills to create unique forms of art that are being shown in Western European type galleries. Not as many as we certainly need to have being seen, but it is that kind of perception that there's art that belongs in an ethnographic museum, and then there's art that's fine art and belongs in a high art gallery in Chelsea. I think that those lines are becoming more and more blurred, and that there is a much greater chance for African or any people from any other continent on Earth to be shown in these fine arts locations. And I wish there were more. I wish there were more places like that. And I'm in complete agreement with you. I don't know how people who understand art can label it in that way, that it's either just African or just post-colonial or just traditional, because since the beginning of time, people have appropriated from each other. And it's that appropriation that creates art, as far as I'm concerned. Without the rich cross-cultural exchanges that we make, and even more so as the world is becoming smaller and more global, is what makes true art. So I am with you that the opportunities for non-Westerners to show in the contemporary Western art scene are limited, but I think that's changing. And I hope That's my personal perception, but I hope I'm right.
Yeah, because we don't control the market of the art. Africans, they are not. Art is first of all, for example, in Africa, before even you can in the post-colonial system, before you can talk about art, you should just have the opportunity to eat enough, to have where you have a house and clothe yourself before you can start to think about art. So that's that. Even the approach of art is very. Like I say, subjective and questionable. Liz, I really appreciate your answering for my question, and once again, really appreciate what all you said and all your experience. Ibu, thank you.
Ibu, I wanted myself ask Liz some questions about her journey. About her journey to Africa. So, as a black and cultural lady, before she traveled to Africa and after she came back, did she feel any difference, or did she has a different feeling from before she went to Africa or something like that?
Or did you come back with initiation in Yoruba, Voodoo, or something else?
Yeah, or just like something, another feeling, like a feeling of pride, or like a feeling of like something plus, or something like that.
I felt a feeling of connectedness. I felt a relationship with a part of the world that I knew nothing about. And I made friends. I made many friends, and I know that I will be welcome to come back. I felt pride that people appreciated my artwork, and that made me feel terrific. And as with any kind of travel, I learned so much about myself and what I was capable of doing, and how able I am to relate to people who are ostensibly different from me. So I did feel very, very good about the fact that I could go to a part of the world that I had little knowledge of and come back feeling that I'd accomplished something. I'd made new friends. I'd been inspired to do new kinds of artwork. And I kind of created a home away from home that I know I can return to and be inspired again by the people and the scenes and sights that I saw. And I can't wait to go back. I really want to go to Senegal. It's number one on my list.
Okay. It's very important, Liz. Like traveling always give more experience to people. And for a personal remarks, I see that like the Americans, black, who travel to Africa, when they come back, you see some kind of wisdom. You see something like a pride or something that they know themselves better, and I see strength in them and a bigger understanding of the world, because that's a personal remark. Most of the time I live in the United States, but if I meet like a black person that has traveled to Africa, when we discuss, you see this person, he understands, he knows a lot of things that the others like who haven't done so don't really understand. Because most of the time, American people here, the blacks, what they know, the idea they have of Africa is what they like see on TV or what some other people tell them. And most of those images or most of the things are negative things. So they feel a kind of like distance from them to other Africans. Like once you see somebody traveling to Africa and come back, he discover things by himself, it means he got a real understanding, and he got a wider mind, a more open mind, and like a pride and like a peace of mind. And that's why I encourage also, like what you said, to travel, like going to Africa. You know, it's like a lot of learnings for our brothers and sisters who are here in the United States.
Yeah.
And you
Well,
also, you're one of them, yeah.
Americans are very ignorant about the rest of the world. And when we do travel, it does open our minds and hearts. And, I mean, travel is the best way to learn and understand. And I agree. I've been lucky.
Okay. Ibu, I give you the floor.
Okay, Liz, thank you for highlighting all these things for our listeners. And I understand that your travel was just like a travel study. It was like a travel study because throughout your travels in Africa, you've learned a lot of things. So as a teacher, how did that affect your teaching experience?
Oh, my gosh. Very deeply. Again, it's difficult to put into words, but I had such a joyful time in Africa that when I came back to my young students, I was a much more happy and open person. And I also had I brought back things that they could touch and hold and we could talk about and they could learn from. So it truly enriched my curriculum on so many different levels. And I was able to teach the children how to do batik and how to do tie-dye. And I could show them handmade beads and explain to them the process for making beads. And I could talk about slavery in a frank and open way, which most American teachers are, quite frankly, terrified to do. So that was a powerful thing for me as a teacher. And one of the things I didn't mention before, but I think it's important for me to say, is that on my first trip, some of the people that I traveled with were African American, and it was a privilege to be with those folks and see their experience or listen to them talk about what Africa meant for them. And, just to be sitting on the bus with my fellow teachers and hear them say, gosh, that looks like my Uncle Frank, and wow, that could be my sister. And so the homecoming for the African American people was powerful too, but in a different way from my experience of Africa. And that was a privilege, and it really helped me on my return to the United States in my relationships with all kinds of people. So I add to the discussion.
Yeah, I was like really impressed when I got in the classroom and I saw all those things from Africa. Your classroom looks like a small African museum.
African, Australian, Turkish, wherever I go, I have to collect beautiful things. And yeah, I have a lot of stuff, definitely. More stuff from Africa, I think, than any other continent I've been to. I have to think about that, but I think, yes. The market at Kumasi, I'm sorry, I haven't been to Dakar yet, but the market in Kumasi, to me, was one of the greatest places I've ever been on earth. And I have been to markets in Asia, South and Central America, the United States, of course, but Kumasi in Ghana was, I don't know, extraordinary. Even better than the market in Istanbul, which is ranked the greatest market in the world. So, yeah.
Why don't you go to Senegal? Senegal is a great destination. We have big beaches. We have
I'm going. It's on life list.
We have Senegal and Joganta. It's a great destination, and we invite people to try the Senegalese destination. And we have like the Biennale of Dakar, we have like jazz festivals. Please tell them to go to Senegal. It's a great destination.
Yes. I haven't, and it is on my list. I want badly to go. And because, for me, Dakar, and I could be wrong because I've never been there, but Dakar for me represents the best of colonial and post-colonial, pre-colonial, colonial, and post-colonial Africa, because it seems to have combined traditions of the European colonies, or at least learn to live with and appreciate the European traditions, as well as the many different African cultures that reside in Dakar. And Asian, right? You have a large Indian and Asian population.
On top of that, people have 1,000 watt smiles on their faces 24 hours a day.
1,000 what?
1,000 watts. 1,000 watt smile.
Oh, that's why.
Ibu, I think also Liz, we will welcome her to Senegal, especially in Toubab Jalao, because we want her to discover what we're doing in the field of culture and art in Toubab Jalao. You know, a big center is going to be like built there with Daouda Fall. You know, I think it will be a great thing to put her in touch with Daouda Fall, so we can like achieve some important works like a link between our people here.
I would love to do that.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's a global vision center.
Global Vision Cultural Center.
Yeah, it's called Global Vision Center. And Daouda Fall is like the president of the organization, and he's doing like positive work to welcome artists all over the world, to make the world smaller, and to make artists like get together, and that's going to be really wonderful when it's done. And once again, reminding people that our guest today is Liz Cohen, an artist painter, teacher, living right here in the United States and in Hoboken. We have Mamadou Sam from New York, and I just from New York, and even though from Jersey City.
Keep making art.
Yes, we're going to keep making art.
A final word.
Yeah.
Keep making art. Art will change the world.
All right. Yeah, wonderful. So thank you, Liz, and we hope to have you again in this show.
I would love to participate again.
It's a cultural program.
You gentlemen are doing a wonderful thing.
Thank you so much. It's a cultural program, and it will help link our people from Africa to here, you know, to make our community stronger and more efficient in this world. And thanks again. And we will tell you more about Global Vision Cultural Center in Toubab Jalao. Thank you.
You're welcome, and thank you.
Thank you so much. So, Ibu, you want to say a few words in Wolof to resume? So, what we've been talking about?
Yeah, so, maa ngi fi rek. Ok, sunu mbokku déglukat yi tey nag ci lu xam ne amoon ko fii ci sunu programme bi mu ngi tudd Liz Cohen, nekk artiste peintre, nekk aussi tamit présidente sunu benn organisation bu nekk fii bu tudd Hobart, ñi nga xam ne dafa nekk benn galerie bi nga xam ne ay artistes ñoo ko moom, ay artistes ñoo ko gérer aussi. Artistes yi ñuy def mooy dimbali yenn artistes yi pour mën a jaay seen liggéey, mën a exposer seen liggéey, di def show fii ci New York ak yeneen béréb yu bari. Mu nekk nit ki nga xam ne nag liggéey na ci wàllu aar lu bari foofu ci Australie, parce que dëkkoon na Australie ay lu mel ni juróom-ñaari at jàngale fa aar. Su mu jàngee moom aar mooy nekk Berkeley, Californie, foofu la gradué. Après dem na Australie jàngale fa, ba mu jógee Australie tamit jàngale na fi plus de 42 ans, ren retraité, jàngale ci ay école privée fii ci New Jersey. Ba mu après loolu dem na tamit dëkk bu daan Ghana bu mu demee Ghana tamit lu mu fa doon jàng mooy lépp li nga xam ne mooy sunu cosaan maanaam African craft jàng na fa ni ñuy defaree ay per jàng na fa ni ñuy defaree tie-dye maanaam cuub jàng na tamit ni ñuy defaree ay masque ak ban loolu lépp nekk na li nga xam ne tamit jàng na ko dem na tamit fu nga xam ne mooy Almayra foofu ci Ghana pour xool place yi nga xam ne fa la doon jaayee nit ñi ñuul ñi jóge fa tamit dem Nigéria mais nee na li nga xam ne jàng na ko ci tukkeem bi nga xam ne def na ko Afrique dafa nekk lu am solo parce que ba mu ñëwee moom li nga xam ne lépp li nga xam ne jàng na ko daf ko jàngale xale yi nga xam ne moom la yor ci école yi fii ci New Jersey te nee na tamit li ko gën a yéem si voyage boobu nga xam ne def na ko Afrique mooy dafa àndoon ak ay africain américain te tamit africain américain yenn saa dañuy gis ku ñuul ne kii kat moo leen di fàttali seen benn nijaay wala moo leen di fàttali seen benn mbokk wala moo leen di fàttali benn nit bi nga xam ne ñoom xamoon nañ ko delloon na wax leen ne tukki nekk na lu nga xam ne lu am solo la baax na tamit ci artiste ndaxte dafay gën a ubbi sa xel day gën a ubbi sa xol day tax tamit waa àddina bi gën a nekk benn parce que man ni ma ko gisee àddina bi ni mu jaxasoo nii nga xam ne kenn bëggatul kenn ku nekk ñu jéem a rey nit ku nekk ñu jéem a yàqu mbiru nit mooy culturellement nit ñi dañoo xamantewul culturellement nit ñi déggoowuñu loolu dem na ku nekk dafay bay ci culture morom te yooyu je pense que pour lu xeex ko loolu aar rek moo ci mën a dimbali nit ñi wax tamit moo tax baax na di am yeneen artistes yi nga xam ne tamit dañuy nekk fii ci États-Unis di suivre suñu programme yenn saa yi mais du xam lan la mu invité leen ba ñoom tamit ñu mën wax ñoom lan lañu gisee aar te lan lañu gisee àddina parce que rajo Pikine Diaspora dafa nekk rajo bi nga xam ne rajo networking la rajo connexion la du pour waa Pikine rek du pour waa Sénégal rek lii mooy wane ne du pour waa Pikine rek du pour waa Sénégal rek mais pour ñëpp la waaw lu am solo la tamit am na yeneen artistes américains yi xam tamit ak yeneen ñi nga xam ne ñu ngi ci àddina bi bëgg nañ bokk ci programme yu mel nii parce que ku wax diaspora waxuloo rek benn quartier waxuloo rek benn groupe nit mais ay nit ñu bëri ngay wax te diaspora ay nit bu ci nekkee war nañu mën a toog waxtaan seetante ay xalaat xool nan lay mën a indee li nga xam ne àddina bi dina gën a positif. Sène allo Sène.
waaw Ibou waaw jërëjëf yow it vraiment ci taxawaay bi thank you so much. ñu thank you Lisa donc xam naa dinañ amaat suñu yeneen mbokk américains yi nga xam ne fii ñu ngi yëngu aussi ci wàllu community ak yëpp di échanger ak ñoom pour gën a rattaxal suñu diggante ñun africains spécialement sénégalais yi gën a def ay liens pour di def ay échange culturel ba suñu peuple yi comme dañ ne diaspora bu suñu peuple yi jaxasoowaat mën a nekkaat benn te loolu moo ñuy mën a may doole puisque àdduna bi xam nga ne mbooloo mooy doole donc il faut nit ñi ñu ñëpp mën a xool nu ñu mën a dajaloo fàtte différence yëpp pour mën a am suñu kàttan boo xam ne dañ mën a imposer wu ci àdduna bi donc Ibou jërëjëf.
waaw seen loolu dëgg la tax na tamit dimanche bii di ñëw am naa benn jazzman américain bi nga xam ne dama koy invité muy tudd Allen Manson.
voilà
mu Allen Manson nekk benn jazzman bi nga xam ne bind na ñaari livre ci jazz.
très bien oui pas jazzman boobu oui.
ba pare tamit day jàngale.
voilà aju
sax xam na ko ay groupe de jazz am na groupe bi nga xam ne bu ñuy joué plus de 20 personnes la moom mooy conducteur bi.
voilà donc loolu